From the broadcasting station of Lagos Television and across the world, wherever you are watching, we say a very big welcome again today on yet another time out on Issues and Trends, where we focus attention on not just policies of government, but as well our socio-political economic status of how we drive the policy of administration in the entity called the Nigerian state. Today is a very special edition of the program as we are focusing attention on a very special ministry, or so to speak, an agency of government, if you also want to use that word. But we are talking about that which has to do with land administration in Lagos State, with focus on the Lagos State Lands Bureau. The very bureau we say about it is what we're looking at today with the accounting officer to take us through the transformation processes that has taken place till date in changing the narrative, changing the base, the face of how business is done, particularly you want to say the ease of doing business with lands matters in Lagos State. These and more will come after this break. We want to thank you for joining us. We'll be right back. Well, from a very renowned, noble, reputable, prestigious, and prominent family in Lagos State, precisely from the Ikorodu division in Lagos State. My guest today, complimented with an outstanding pedigree, talking about his educational and academic records. My guest today is an alumnus of the Lagos State University, equally an alumnus of the University of Lagos, and of course a man that is vastly, widely read. Because by his background, you'll be surprised as to, wow, did he do this at one time? Yes, he did. And from the records, I can confidently, or so to speak, convincingly tell you that he was a one-time lecturer at the then Lagos State Polytechnic, now Lagos State University of Science and Technology, where he was teaching the use of English and communication skills. You never knew that, but I'm saying that to you today. But so to speak, that today, here is a man who has traversed so many ministries, agencies of government to be where he is today. Well, he's a highly innovative, hardworking, and resourceful personality of reckoning, who was responsible, still responsible, who was responsible and still responsible for various initiatives that brought governance closer to the people of Lagos State. Distinguished eminent guest, my guest today is no less a person, but I best will describe him as someone who is not only sociable and accessible as a personality, but he belongs to many associations. One, he is a member of the Institute of Directors, IOD, and is equally a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Public Administration of Nigeria, CIPAN, a fellow of the Nigeria Institute of Training and Development, NITAD, and also a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Management, NIM. And he was the former coordinator of the Lagos State University Alumni Association in Ikorodu Division. It is my honor and pleasure, distinguished guest watching me right here, to welcome my guest today, Mr. Kamaldeen Owodiran Oluwadamilola Daudu Oluwasegun, the Permanent Secretary, Lands Bureau, the very bureau in Lagos State. Well, thank you for this honor to have you as our guest on the program today.
I'm happy that you actually called all my names. A lot of people don't know me by those names. My name actually in the public service, we're used to Oluwasegun Kamaldeen Owodiran. But I'm glad you made your research and you got all the names. Thank you.
I appreciate you so much, sir. Now let us begin with this beginning. The uniqueness of your agency of government under the governor's office cannot be underestimated, cannot be undermined, and of course we cannot overplay its significant role in the policy trust of land administration by Mr. Governor or the government of the state in Lagos State today. So that tells you the weight and of course the powers that this Lands Bureau, the very bureau, wield in the course of his responsibilities and duties as a government agency. So for us, the vision is also clear. It is to be the platform for efficient land resources management that promotes easy access to land and title registration in Lagos State. How do we understand this before we key into the vision, the core values, and the ministerial responsibilities and details? Let's start with the vision. How has it changed the face of government and administration as we speak under your supervision?
Oh, thank you. And I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our viewers anywhere in the world, because I understand that this is going everywhere, and I think it's just proper to extend those courtesies. I want to give it to Mr. Governor, who has that foresight, who believes that we should change the face of land administration in Lagos State. And this is not by chance. This is what he has put in place well over time. The previous government started it, but with him coming on board, because it's part of the system all this while, and he thought land administration in Lagos State should be seamless. And how to do that? That's why we have this present process of digitizing and automating our land process. And this has come to be and has come to stay now. I believe that if you come to Lands Bureau now, you'll be surprised at the transformation going on. But before then, I want to beat my chest and say boldly that anybody that wants to do a search, get a certified true copy of documents, and even apply for land services need not come to Lands Bureau. We're trying to reduce the interface with the public, and that's why we have our lands, our website, which is the landsonline.lagostate.gov.ng. You can sit at the comfort of your land and initiate the process of getting your CFOs, getting your search CFO, the governor's consent, the DIM grants, and any title, particularly application for land. And this is novel because you don't have to leave your house. You can also make payments online. You can also track your applications, and this has not only reduced the turnaround time, but it has also ensured that the mistakes that we do while processing applications is reduced, and we don't have to go into papers that used to be in the past, where you have to go through files and all that. And I give it to Mr. Governor, who has put everything behind this to ensure that land administration is seamless in Lagos State. I want to also give it to the staff. I came on board barely some months ago, and this is a project that has, started right from when my predecessor, who is now the head of service of Lagos State, has started. If you talk with the head of service, you see the passion that he has for this process, and I'm happy that I'm coming on board to continue where he stopped, and all glory will have to go to Mr. Governor, who has, since I came on board, given us all the support that we needed, especially the support that we have through the SA, that's the special advisor to Mr. Governor on urban development and EGIS, that's Dr. Olajide Bashan, a very fine gentleman who is always ready to listen to you and take up your problems. Thank you.
Well, I know that we will take you through the technicalities of the major reformation that is ongoing, and of course the new added reformation that you're still also embarking upon. While we're taking it from this face value, we've looked about the vision as we speak. The mission is also to entrench a culture, a choice of word here, to entrench a culture of excellence that ensures prompt and efficient service delivery anchored on the most current technology. It sounds wonderful, global, and of course in a compliance with global best practices. How is this changing the face, if you must look at this again?
That choice of word is intentional. I'll tell you that, and it's not for anybody to read and just leave it like that. You need to come to the bureau or look at what we do. At the moment, all our processes are being automated, so our back officers are already going through our files and scanning and indexing in such a way that they have been uploaded, and we've already done well, quite over 200 as we speak, and we're still going. Our target is to ensure that over 600,000 files are already uploaded, and at the comfort of your house you can do that. And that is not only what we're doing. The officers are also being equipped by Mr. Governor. Go to any offices now, you have all our officers that have systems that they can use to do their work, and ensure that the process of land administration is not only seamless, but you can access it from anywhere. And also, the process is also, don't look at the system, you look at the human angle to it. The officers are well motivated now by Mr. Governor. I can tell you that all the challenges that we take to Mr. Governor in the line of this automation and digitization process has been, quickly, approved for us as it were by Mr. Governor. And you can see that we were having this interview out of a normal working period, and you can see that all our officers are in the office. That is the new culture that you spoke to now that we have in the office. Officers comes to work weekends. I can boldly tell you that if you come on Saturdays, you see our officers working to ensure that we meet the target set for us by Mr. Governor. So that's why I said the choice of words are not only there, but they are intentional for us to change the whole gamut of the land administration process in Lagos. And because this is there to us, we want you to be able to, and of course, it's the bedrock of Lagos State, like the Minister of Petroleum Resources is to the federal government. Of course, we have challenges. I won't tell you that the challenges are not there, but the challenges are the ones we encounter on a day-to-day basis, and Mr. Governor has ensured that we surmount those challenges by giving us, in the process we discovered that we need to have our own bandwidth, and Mr. Governor, because processes are getting slow sometimes at a particular time of the day, and because the way we're being motivated now by the governor, so we had to get our own bandwidth. That's almost done, with the exception of some technical issues like the firewall, which we are intending to put in place so that we don't have the issues of hackers and all that. But at the end of the day, like I said, this is a culture that is intentional. I'll always be that. It's not as if it's coming. So I can boldly also say again that if you come to Lands Bureau now, in no time you get your processes done. But particularly, we don't want you to come. We want you to start your process in the comfort of your house and finish there, and we will have little interface with officers in Lands Bureau.
While the efficiency, effectiveness of the service delivery is at its best.
Yes. Yes, you just mentioned it. I need you to go to that portal and do the search yourself and come back to me to tell me the reviews that we have. Of course, like the process that was put in place is not only working. There is also a process by which we get the feedback. There are bank-end professionals that handle the feedback for us, and this gets to us and we tackle it immediately. Our public affairs units are doing fantastically well. They check emails, they check. I'll tell you that we handled over 10,000 emails in a month going, asking questions, going through processes, and we're able to treat this with our consultant and particularly the public affairs unit. And this is a very good, what I can beat my chest and say, we're working, Lands Bureau is working, and that's why we are the very bureau now.
The very bureau. I think I like that. Let's come to the core values here, sir. Again, the choice of words attracts my person. We talk about professionalism, we talk about discipline, and above all, integrity. And that's what counts when you talk about integrity. Has this actually spurred the change needed when you look at the input of the personnel working? Though I know you've done some referencing, but this tells a story. Is this true to type in what we meet and what is seen in any engagement of activities with the ministry?
Thank you. I always don't want to speak for myself or my staff, but the change that Mr. Governor has brought in now has actually encouraged the officers to focus on their job and be transparent, as it were. Before I got to land, I also believe that when you get to land, you have to pay to get your things done, you have to pay to get services. At the end of the day, you don't even get that service. Apart from the fact that the automation process has come to change all that. But I also discovered that it's not all that true, as it were, because officers, I had to do a lot of spot checks to ensure that officers are on their toes, because now we are well motivated. You can go around offices. We are changing the face of Lands Bureau, and I want to thank Mr. Governor and particularly the support received from the SA Urban Development and AGIS, and also the head of service, who has been my source of motivation. Of course, there are some technical issues that you quickly want to get his advice, his inputs, his technicalities on, and then I can assure you 24/7 the head of service is always there for us. And coming back to the staff, because they are well motivated, there's always that transparency and that effectiveness in the discharge of their duties. I make bold to say, and I tell you, every time Mr. Governor is on the issue, on our issue in Lands Bureau, I get direct calls from Mr. Governor, I get direct calls from people. You know what land is. Just recently, I was summoned to the EXCO to come and explain why some processes are slow, and I like that, despite the support being given by Mr. Governor. At the end of the day, you discover that it's Mr. Governor himself that explain all the process to the EXCO member, because he is on top of the ministry, and he has given, like I said, all the support to all our staff, and there is no way we will not reciprocate by ensuring that we do the job the way it is done. So there is no more coming to Lands for people to come and shout that you see in social media because officers are doing their job. There is no more flying of papers here and there, except the backlogs. We're clearing. Because of the transition to a new president and the change of guard from the last person here transiting to be the HOS, we've got some backlogs, and that's caused a bit of delays and discomfort to the public in terms of getting approval. But I can tell you, as at the moment, we inherited over 1,600 manual files as backlogs, and we've cleared as a last weekend about 1,000, and by the end of the year, I want to assure you, we won't have a backlog of manual files. So all our processes will have been moved to the Omentum application, and then you won't have any cost.
Because you mentioned it, I wanted to let's understand the operations and of course the technicalities and efficiency of that Omentum that you've just mentioned.
Yes, that's the process that is making our job simpler for us. It's a process that has been on for some time. So we're taking all the manual files before, we're backfiling it, we're indexing it, we're digitizing it, we're uploading it in such a way that we won't have to do with manual files again, and the process will be seamless, like I've explained. And the good thing about it, we are going to have a land archive, an archival system where all those files will not be same. We're going to put them in that building. It's going to be in a storage where it's only the governor, the permanent secretary, or when they cut a request for manual files, that you see manual files in Lands Bureau anymore, because the process is already going on, where we are automating everything that has to do with land administration. And I can assure you that it's a process that is working, not without this teething problem, like I said, but Mr. Governor has actually given us the support that will make this work, and exactly it's working.
I'm going to come to some choice of words that you've used, sir, in actually explaining the functionality, the modality, the narrative of how this perspective has changed the services of the Lands Bureau today, and we must commend the leadership in this concern. But let's also take it that, by and large, Lagosians do not understand that the meeting is a small ministry. After all, it's under the governor's office. But they do not know, they do not understand, they do not have an inkling into the enormosity or the enormous assignment or duties so attached to these or responsibilities so given to these bureau. How will they understand? Will you make the public understand that it's not just what they see, it's beyond what they see? What do you say to that?
So, like I said before, it's not only the automation process that is the new thing that we're doing. The public should know that apart from CFOs, apart from certified true corporate, there are other supports. We do land regularization, particularly the federal regularization under the Land Use and Allocation Committee. We have schemes that we're still maintaining, and we're developing some new ones so that Lagosians can have access to land. We're also working in collaboration with other agencies like the Ministry of Agric and Food Systems, and also the Ministry of Fiscal Planning and Urban Development. We're also working with the Office of the Surveyor General to ensure that we have a well-coordinated land family that would ensure that
a well-coordinated
land family that will ensure that the public there have access to whatever they come for in Lands Bureau. And this is not only being done by other agencies. I'll give it to my officers, because like I said, you can't do it alone. I have a director in charge of land regularization. I have a director in charge of land services. I have a director in charge of an executive secretary which is in charge of Land Use and Allocation Committee. Together we form a team, and regularly we meet to look at how we can best move the agency forward and improve on the process. On the other side, we also have the digitization units, which is headed by another director, Ms. Agiri, who is also doing fantastically well in ensuring that the back-end officers and all the other officers there are doing what they should do, and I get a report every time. So, in essence, coming back to your question, it's not only about efficiency and effectiveness, is about also ensuring that the public can access whatever information they need from Lands Bureau without no stress. We relate with also with other agencies in the public service, the NDLEA, the police, the ICPC, in ensuring that titles that are brought forward to them are genuine and can be confirmed from our system. And this is at, you can see, the good thing that to ensure that this is transparent along. Mr. Governor has ensured that charges are not placed on those coming from the public sector, like the ICPC, like the EFCC. So in such an instance, you get reports back to them on time without delay. And these are part of the whole process of ensuring that land administration in Lagos State is not only effective but efficient.
If you wouldn't mind, sir, I would want to state it clearly here so that people can understand what we are saying. That's your ministerial responsibilities, among others, has to do with land policy and land management and administration on one side. It also has to do with acquisition of land for state purposes, land registry, administration and control, registration of title documents, part of what you've been saying, governor's consent to subsequent transaction on land. I want to note that. Resolving land disputes between individuals in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice is another point we must talk about.
Okay.
Neighborhood improvement charge, NIS in areas not enumerated.
Yeah.
It has been a concern which we know even the House of Assembly has had cause to address. Servicing and monitoring of land use and allocation committee that has been speeding the ease of doing business. Allocation of reclaimed land in conjunction with the Ministry of Waterfront and Infrastructure. Another issue of primary concern. Compensation for acquired lands, land use and allocation matters, issuance and revocation of certificate of occupancy, dispute resolution on land matters, creation and management of residential
schemes,
commercial and industrial schemes, which brings to mind the this Ikeja computer village seem to be moved away to another site. Regularization of federal government grants, you just mentioned that, and any other duty as may be assigned by the governor. Now let's take it one by one, but let me generally ask you, how do you, in all of these loaded responsibilities, coordinate and ensure that in all of this highlighted, the Lands Bureau, the very bureau, stay top of its responsibilities and duties?
I just mentioned the fact that it's not only done by the SA in some aspect and the permanent secretary. The major part is done through the heads of directorates and also the officers. You can see all those ministerial responsibility are, coordinated in various departments. You have, like I mentioned earlier, Directorate of Land Regularization, you have Directorate of Land Services, we have LUSA that's in charge of schemes, and even you can
all of these judiciously administered by competent professionals.
Very competent for land administrators, land surveyors, estate surveyors and valuers, and these are people that have track records and experience over the years, and in Lagos State, we're so blessed and we're so lucky to have officers that you can, as a permanent secretary, rely on. Do you want to talk of the director, the executive secretary, land use and allocation committee, who has a vast experience in terms of land administration in Lagos State? Or you want to mention the director of land services, who is also a professional in our field, or the director of land regularization, as it were, up until the head of survey units, the head of digitization. In all this process, these are assignments given to each directorates and units, and because we have targets, because I said targets and KPIs for them, which I measure performance, because I relate this every time to Mr. Governor. It's not easy, but we're getting there. I know, because you just mentioned that this is humongous. The schedule, it's very enormous. But despite that, because of the motivation that we're giving to the staffs now, we're getting it done. And I will admit it could be better, but we'll get there by the special grace.
All right, it could be better, but we'll get there. We'll take another quick break, and we'll be right back after this time with us. It's good to have you back. It's still Issues and Trends, and today we are focusing attention in the discourse of understanding land administration in Lagos State. And our guest, again, like I did say, is Mr. Kamaldeen Owodiran Oluwadamilola Daudu Olowoshago, the Permanent Secretary, Lands Bureau here in Lagos State. I must thank you for this honor of having you again, sir. Now, it is on record that you have served diligently in various capacities, traversing various strategic government MBAs, such as the Ministry of Establishments, Training and Pensions, Office of the Head of Service, and of course, Public Service Office, Office of the Chief of Staff, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Housing, to where we are today. And that tells us something, that experience is not what one can buy, but what one passes through to acquire. From your knowledge base and experience, sir, let's take a look at resolving land disputes between individuals in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice as it concerns part of your responsibilities. The issue of land grabbers has become a concern over the years. Lagosians have been complaining. You have been attending to it. The Lagos State House of Assembly has received so many complaints as well. You've been working in synergy with the Lagos State government, with the House of Assembly in this regard. Where are we when we talk about this issue? One, in resolving land disputes, and two, the issue of land grabbers in the state today under your watch.
So I also would love to start. I'm always happy when I look back and see what the governor has done. It's a good thing that we have the Committee on Land Grabbers in Lagos State in place. Even though people have had cause to receive visitors in this office and to tell them that they're a bit, slow in administering justice or getting case resolved. But I tell them the issue of land administration is not something you can rush into. In Lagos State, our main stay is lands. We don't really have that land mass. The whole of Lagos State is how many are there? 3,600 and something square kilometers of land. So you can imagine what that says to you. There's going to be issues about land acquisition and revocation and administration. And at the ministerial level, we have a committee in place. Of course, we have a unit on being headed by a director in charge of acquisition, revocation, and compensation. At the ministerial level, we are able at first to invite stakeholders to meetings when it comes to the issue of a dispute. We talk to the two parties, particularly when it has to do with the issue of title, because we are supposed to be the custodian of titles. We examine who has the titles, who have the right, and in a way where we can't really resolve that, we now refer it to land, because we now discover that most of these cases are being manipulated by the Omoniles themselves. A land that has been legitimately acquired, a land that has legitimately been revoked, are the lines to which some of them are encroaching upon and reselling to I would say, naive individuals. Because I tell people that comes to my office that the first thing you do before buying any land in Lagos State is for you to check the title the person has to, or the right the person has to that land. If you're not checking, at the end of the day, you bought a land and you're now coming back to say they duped you. Of course, you have the access to lands online. I would forever repeat that and say that in the comfort of your home now, or your offices, you can do a search on a property or a land that you want to buy before you even go into initiating a transaction. Of course, at the end of the day, we don't have an option as a responsible and responsive government to bring parties together to resolve this. But I'm always quick to add that the essence of the land Committee on Land Grabbers is for them to be able to establish who really has the title and move encroachers away on such title, particularly on state government allocated land, because we as a responsible government are the ones that have the onus on us to defend the certificate of occupancy we given to people on government lands. And also, not only that, individuals, the private lands that have registered their consent with us, we have to, protect them in such a way that
you mean those with private schemes now, housing schemes here and there in collaboration?
Who has registered their title?
That's
you understand?
Right.
So it's always proper for you with the state government. That's why I implore and encourage people to come around and register their title in such a way that you have the governor's consent. We've got various titles you can have. We've got deemed grant on subsequent transaction. We've got certificates of occupancy. We've got governor's consent. And wherever you fall within this, if you have a title, he who owns the title owns the land.
He who owns the title owns the land.
So that's what I will encourage people to come. But of course, at the moment, the Land Committee on Land Grabbers are resolving issues. I know also that there are challenges, but I will ask.
You keep talking about challenges with due respect to you, sir. Challenges that has to do with really addressing all of these.
Yeah, the challenges that particularly I mentioned is that of enforcement. You understand? And Mr. Governor has really supported us in terms of achieving that. Of course, we don't control the police. We don't control the machinery of the police. So we have to go to the Commissioner of Police sometimes to get support so that we'll be able to carry out this enforcement. That's what we mean by challenges. And that most of the time we were able to surmount this challenge. That committee is headed by the Honorable Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, of which I'm the co-chairman of that committee. And we have the state coordinator, you understand, of the committee in place. So
I'm going to take all of these things one by one, sir. If we have to do as a concluding part, I want Lagosians to understand that they are hearing from the government, and they are listening to the government, and your submission as the accounting officer should at least erase any negativity in the mindset of Lagosians watching you as we speak. Now let's.
I'll be glad to do a concluding part, because it's not we can't finish.
We just cannot. We just cannot.
I'm always available. I'm always here.
All right, sir. But let's now take a look at having talked about the issue of resolving land disputes between individuals in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice, like you said, headed by the committee headed by the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, and your humble self, sir, as the co-chair. The issue of compensation for acquired lands. As a reporter, we know of complaints that we've had, and I've had cause to call the Director of Public Affairs. We've had cause to go some other places as well because of my concern that she must succeed. This is an issue of concern that the government, some said, is not really addressing the way it should be addressed. How true is it, sir?
I will also tell you boldly and categorically that we are giving compensation. The funds of government, it's tied to some other aspect of governance, and we can use all the funds that we have to pay compensation. But I can tell you, every year we pay no less than 3 billion compensation to people. But I will also
3 billion.
Yes, I will also let you know that of course we've had backlogs. Okay. You understand? But Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu is trying to clear these backlogs like he's done under the pension scheme. I'll tell you something on that scheme moving forward. I had a one-on-one with Mr. Governor, and I told Mr. Governor, we are paying compensations, but the people out there, I don't know that we're doing that. What I believe we should do is like what they did during the last pension presentation, that now all the approvals we give, all these were the little ones, the big ones, the general ones, the compensation for acquisition, for revocation, for demolition, and all that. Let us come at a forum, maybe every quarter. We now do like a presentation where you come and present to the public, and we'll have the cameras and the TV to show that we're always paying this. It's only when we demolish or acquire for a specific purpose that they see. When we conclude the issue of compensation, they just pick the check and go. And nobody comes back to say the governor has compensated me. So, and Mr. Governor graciously approved that, okay, henceforth, go and prepare the next batch of compensation. And I'll be glad to come and present that openly. And that gladdens my heart, because now the governor will know, the people will know that Mr. Governor governor is paying compensation. Of course, like I started with, we can't pay all the compensation at a go because the funds of government are tied to other things. But I can assure you that we'll, every quarter now with what we're planning, we'll pay compensation, and the public will know.
The public should see. They should know
we are paying compensation.
The government is doing the needful.
That is the new thing that is coming.
Okay, why we also must commend the government on this new initiative. Let me also take you through the issuance and revocation of certificates of occupancy. This is another big concern. I'm just trying to share with you public opinions, feedbacks we've gotten from various news outlets about the dissatisfaction of Lagosians. Even it's cosmopolitan in nature, it's embracing everybody. Please, at least that they are in Lagos, they are same place, and we need to put it in the right perspective. In this, what would you say? Looking at the compensation for acquired lands. The issuance and revocation of certificate of occupancy. What do you say?
Issuance of certificate of occupancy is not a problem, I will tell you, because you see, revocation is what I would want you to. I want the public generally to know. In Lagos, we don't have that luxury of land where we are developing very fast. Things are changing. So for public overriding interest, the government has to revoke in the interest of the public.
For public overriding interest.
And I will give you an example.
The government must
revoke. We're doing a rail system that has been conceived for a long. The rail has to go through some particular route, and those routes has already been occupied, albeit with C of O's, and we have to develop. This has to be revoked in the interest of the public. But I tell you, in our budget, there is a line for compensation for revoked land under the train routes. For you to know that we are specific. I just give you an example about that. So the moment we revoke your land for such purposes, we pay you compensation. But I tell you, most people don't have titles to some lands that the branch that the government has revoked, because these are already acquired land in the first place by the government. These are already committed lands in the first place by the government. And when you go
there's a default somewhere there.
So when you go there to build a property,
you have encroached on
government land. So by the time the government comes, it might not be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line. And the governor comes and you're telling me you've already done. We ask you, bring your papers, bring your title, bring your document. And I can assure you, there's no way you have a building plan on an acquired on a committed land by government. There's no way you have a building plan on an acquired land for specific purpose. There's no way you have a building land on a land already designated for agric purpose. That's why you see the whole stretch of you see a lot of developers coming up with structures in such a way that you think the government gave them. No. Nobody will give you a CFO or a consent for a land that has already been committed as a Greek land, or for schemes, government schemes, because we have to plan for all this. So at the end of the day, you now talk of compensation for something you are already not.
You have defaulted on.
But also, the government, like I tell you, especially Mr. Governor, is a very, responsive person. They will tell you, no, even if you do that, for whatever reason, we have to give compensation. But for those that has genuine document and title, we pay, a fair value.
For those that have genuine documents and
pay fair value.
I needed to emphasize that because they need to understand.
That has title to such land space. We pay a fair value for whatever we take out of that route.
So because government has not been showcasing this through public knowledge. People just take advantage to say government has not been good to them, whereas they have actually defaulted in the first instance, not by encroaching.
And I also believe that with the next move of trying to present checks to people, people will know actually that we're also paying. If you come up with your compensation, we already do. If you check my table now, I already have 1 or 2 files on compensation that I'm trying to take to Mr. Governor. That was to form part of the next batch of presentation that we do publicly, and we'll tell you how much. That's close to about 2 billion altogether that we're going to present. But that's no small money. If we can do that, of course, every year, purposely and intentionally, they will be able to reduce the backlog. And over a period of time, like the pension backlog that Mr. Governor cleared, we'll be able to clear the backlog on compensation. These are, mind you, these are compensation that has been there since 2014, 2015, by Mr. Governor. And you can see that Mr. Governor is trying to, make sure that he reduces not only the backlog, but also pay the one that. And also, I must mention, there are some specific ones that the moment that you revoke, Mr. Governor pays immediately.
The moment it's revoked, Mr. Governor pays immediately,
because, of course,
the sensitivity of the need of that
particular route, particularly for the train station that we're building and the train routes that they were putting in place.
Mr. Permanent Secretary, sir, we are not going to be done, and we can't be done with the fullness of this loaded responsibilities that you have. But let us quickly take a look at this, with all due respect to you. Let us take a look at allocation of reclaimed land in conjunction with the Ministry of Waterfront and Infrastructural Development. This is also key. It is part of what we also hear people grumble, complain about. More so when they say that because they are not indigents of the state, that the state government choose to want to encroach, deprive them of what is their right. Is this also correct to say?
No. I can also tell you that Mr. Governor frowned at that statement, that because you are not from Lagos, I know a Lagosian, so that's why. No, that we should take that out of our discourse in Lagos State, because we've moved beyond that. If you have genuine reason to want to take up land in Lagos, irrespective of religion, tribe or race, will give you that. But of course, there are some specific land, like you just mentioned, reclamation of land in conjunction with waterfront. That was why the Ministry of Waterfront Infrastructure was put in place. So specifically for the purpose of ensuring that our water spaces, waterfronts are not just turned to slums without proper management of those spaces, because we are even trying to discourage you reclaiming lands unnecessarily, because it's already affecting some of the infrastructures we're putting in place, like bridges and all that. So we specifically want the Ministry of Waterfront to actually look into the process of reclaiming lands for good purposes. Then after we work together, because they would have to ensure that what you're doing in terms of reclamation is right. It is after that I will be able to give title to whatever they do. So we work in conjunction with the Ministry of Waterfront Infrastructure to ensure that what you actually. Of course, most of these waterfront spaces are already being turned to another field. Now, where you go everywhere, all over the world, waterfronts are not just
tourist sites.
They are tourist sites and all that. So if at the end of the day we're trying to do the right thing at this end of the world, I don't think we should be blamed for that, especially when you don't have title or papers to where you claim to have.
Mr. Permanent Secretary, the issue of creation and management of residential, commercial and industrial schemes plays a very significant role. I recall discussing with a special advisor on EGIS and urban development, Dr. Babatunde Olajide Babatunde. He was very clear and, of course, non-apologetic, because he was sure and convinced that it is the right thing to do, talking about the movement of the computer village to somewhere at this Katangwa area of Lagos State. And he said with conviction that place remains a residential site and not a commercial site, and it still remains a residential site, and by so doing, government action must take its due course. This is a very laudable thing, but out there they don't seem to understand that this is why it is what it is.
Because in Lagos State we have a master plan, and we work with our master plan. That's what I said when initially, that you see, every part of Lagos is already planned. So you're not coming to tell me that this is what we just thought of, and we're coming to, like the doctor said, that place is purely residential. If you look at the adjoining community axis there, you see that they're purely residential. So if you're putting a commercial, that kind of commercial activities in such a place, over time you have to move. Development will show you that you have to move. So I want to believe that he's doing well with the urban regeneration process that is going on, and I can assure you that is well. For the creation of our own schemes, of course, it is the duty of the government to provide affordable housing and land for the people in Lagos State, because if we can't leave that alone to the private sector. What we do is that we look at land in such a way that we'll be able to partner with some private sector developers to be able to access and be able to give affordable homes to our people. On the other hand, government will create schemes in such a way that we'll be able to allow citizens of Lagos State to have affordable land with which to build their home. You can see the various schemes we've had in the past. They're the ones still functioning now. And we're planning to have 1 or 2 schemes before the end of the year, if not early part of next year. And I still don't want to, put
let the cat out of the bag.
But we will have that soon.
But
that's part of our function.
I want to conclude in this first series with you with the fact that one other office of the government that is so attached to the Lands Bureau, the very bureau, is the office of the Surveyor General. There is no way you can detach that from the Lands Bureau. And we understand that as part of that recognition, the changing of the change and changing the face of the Surveyor General's office for the good of the Policy Trust of Land Administration became necessary with new innovation that you put in place. Would you speak to that for us?
Okay. As part of this, I also want you to go speak with the Surveyor General, you understand. But just to add to that, if you're coming for the premise with which we can do any proper titling in Lagos State is for us to authenticate your survey. I can tell you we'll do e-survey now in such a way which also will be able to get the actual measurement with which we're giving us. So if you want to apply for your CFO, your DIN grant, your any title in Lagos State now, you come up with yourself, which will also be sent to as part of the process of digitization and land administration in Lagos State. We have to also authenticate the fact that the survey with which you are trying to get the title is genuine. The measurement, the coordinate and all that lay properly on our own map in Lagos State in such a way that we'll be able to move forward and be sure that we're actually getting the right value for the land with which we're asking for a governor's consent or consideration in whatever form in Lagos State. So we're working together in such a way that we'll have a foolproof. God at the zero, you just dump a survey to us. And I also inform people that when you bring a survey, it's not a foolproof, because if you look at the heading of the survey, the survey rather, they will tell you plans showing property said to belong. That's what you're bringing forward. It's not authentic. So it is our responsibility to be sure that it is what you are giving us, but we have to make sure it is said to belong. It's what you're bringing forward from your surveyor. So we have to ensure that it is correct. That's why we interface with them firstly, on the survey, we are bringing on board to process the title.
How has the commissioning of this portal now, the ICT portal, the e-portal, has it changed the way the Surveyor General's office relates in the way of doing business?
Which of the ICT portal?
The latest one, I think the one commissioned by the head of service on behalf of Mr. Governor.
Oh yes, sorry, yes. You see, if not for the small itch that we have in the office of the Surveyor General, and you know what I mean, because of the fire and all that, by the time the process that they're going through is also finished now. You know, the Surveyor General service is not only the issue, the relationship there is not only with land. It has to do with a lot of other offices in terms of getting information, and the ICT portal is really helping. You know, it's really helping that process. By the time they finish the new building, and you know, also the process of digitizing all their process, which is, I think, about 85–90% completed, then you have a seamless exercise between us and Surveyor General.
Which is part of the digitization process you started with,
yes,
as part of the major reformation
reforms that
you are doing under your leadership, your watch,
yes,
so to speak.
Thank you. Yeah.
I must thank you, sir, but it's not ended here because it's loaded. But let me just say that I want to call it a day with you today. Thanking you so very much for this honor to have you as our guest, and looking forward that in the shortest time we can quickly conclude the conclusion of the concluding part, so that we just seal it and let people know that I can always get back to you.
So thank you
so very much
for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I want to assure you that I'm always here to not only answer to complaints from the public, but my door is also open. You understand? We put in a lot of work here. I work Saturdays, I work Sundays, making sure that things work. And that's the mandate I have from Mr. Governor. And I can assure you, anytime you come in, I'll be readily available to shed light on whatever is coming from your hand.
Well, thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you. God bless you.
Well, this is where we want to call it a day again today on Issues and Trends. We look forward again to seeing you joining us for yet another time all together. But we will not stop without concluding this series of discourse that we have started with the accounting officer in charge of the Lands Bureau, the very bureau, as we are changing the brand to keep with global best practices as we speak today. That is telling you, where you have good leadership, then you will have good followership. And when you have a man with a vision at the top of affairs, then definitely the change of the change that we look for will be manifest in what we do and how we address them. In this narration, we must say a good thank you. I mean, a very big thank you to the Permanent Secretary for this honor. And we will conclude. You get more information from us until then. We'll see you again same time next week on Land Administration Matters in Lagos State.